So SASE is going to replace the typical VPN infrastructure, securely connect anywhere. So that is something which is discussion is happening around the industry. So that is where I think I'm keen towards looking into as cloud proxy, SASE, etc.
You are watching CIOTV by Enterprise IT World, a production of Accent Info Media.
In conference rooms, classrooms, smart homes, and places that are home to power, our products help people connect, communicate, and collaborate. Master a meeting, an opportunity, a moment. And while sometimes our solutions do nothing more than advance the proper mood, more often, they move companies, communities, and even humanity forward. And it's that innovation that fuels us. We are Crestron. Innovation fuels us.
Hello and welcome. You're watching CIOTV.live, powered by Enterprise IT World. I'm Anisha Nayyar-Thapan. In a series of interviews, we are trying to understand the perspective of CIOs and IT leaders on various technologies and their strategies. This interview is brought to you by Selestin, an audio-video automation and collaboration company. On our show today, we are very happy to welcome Mr. Selestin Thomas. He's General Manager, Digital Technology and IT Infra at Nissan Digital India. Thank you so much, Mr. Thomas, for joining us.
Thank you, Anisha. Happy to be here.
A quick introduction of Mr. Thomas. He has a track record of 25 years in spearheading complex IT modernization and integration projects in McFadden, Satmetrics, Deccan Aviation, and the Indian Air Force. He has expertise in planning, designing, and construction of network and data center facilities in the US, the UK, Brazil, and India. Thank you so much for being with us. We're very excited to get in your information, your perspective, and your wisdom on what's really happening, because the auto sector is one very exciting space today. Now, we're trying to understand, why is digital transformation important for companies? Some people see it as a bricks and mortar company. It is actually a physical product that people are going to use. So how important and why is digital transformation important for auto companies?
Yep. So it's a good question, Anisha. So you would have seen the car industry or the manufacturing industry is going through a very paradigm shift. If you look at the cars are stated to be a computer on four wheels, right? So there have been paradigm shift in the manufacturing sector. Automation is the key. When we're looking at the floor managers, the line managers tasks, there have been significant investment in terms of automating the task of the managers. The industry is now focusing and investing to automate mundane activities through robotic process automation, artificial intelligence, machine learning, etc. So if you again look at the car industry, not only from the manufacturing sector, but if you look at the consumer perspective, their perspective is also changing when you look at the car, right? So gone are the days you need to look at the logbooks to schedule a service of your car. It's all automated, right? It's all connected cars. And again, if you walk into the dealers, they give on-demand experience to you. You can customize anything right from the color, your dashboard, pretty much everything there. Artificial intelligence, machine learning plays a greater role here. The connected car industry is fast growing and transforming the traditional car maintenance activities, car industries, etc. Gone are the days when the people need to look into the manuals, look into the log books to have an operating model of the car, right? The connected car segment, as you mentioned, right, it will significantly remove the human intervention, and they will continue to evolve as we go forward. That is the future that car industry is currently looking forward to. And the modern technologies like artificial intelligence, IoT, machine learning, RP, etc., they have a larger play in those segments, in bringing those kind of connected car segments to the people there. So to your question, yes, a lot of things is happening around in connected cars. driverless cars, etc. You would have seen a news wherein Apple launching the car. So where are we now? We get
definitely, Mr. Thomas. The customer is not seeing a car as a product. He wants an experience. Gone are the days of buying products. People are now buying experiences. So I just want to understand, how far is Nissan in its journey of digital transformation?
So digital transformation is quite key for every IT leader, not only specific to the IT Nissan, right? IT Nissan. So every organization is making leaps and bounds to leverage the digital potential. The dependence on technology is enormous, it's huge. The organizations, they are all challenged to ensure, they're all challenged to provide a consistent, seamless user experience, regardless of their work from anywhere. So we are all now talking about something called a hybrid workforce, right? People are working from different locations. They are not physically together. A typical hybrid workforce. They are going to stay here. The challenge is, right, how do we shelter them at their home, at the distributed place, right? How do we extend our corporate infrastructure accessible to this new blueprint, what we talk about, the hybrid, right? Infrastructure monitoring is the key when we look at the hybrid forces. Secured remote access is really a great concern for the IT leaders, right? So again, when we look at the hybrid workforce, the resource onboarding and offboarding, it is happening, but it's happening in outside the typical four walls of office, right? And again, the collaboration requirement, office is becoming a fluid concept now. Work can happen from anywhere across the world, anytime, right? Business is demanding smart offices and intelligence collaborations to empower this workforce to work from anywhere to the connected devices. Right? So again, the dependence of the logistics, it's gone. I'm talking about IT services delivery. When we look at the digital transformation, the logistics indeed played some kind of role in ensuring the people from working from distributed work places. But we have seen a lot of investment going to that sector to ensure people work and connect from everywhere. Virtual desktop infrastructure, the adoption has seen huge during the hybrid workforce situation, right? Security, again a challenge, right? And when we look at the hybrid workforce situation, the security has already compounded a threat-filled landscape of cybersecurity. That is what we have seen. So many things is going around as a digital transformation, and it also requires security need to be addressed at a larger scale, because we all want a trusted endpoints at sitting at the end of your network, right? So that is very important. How do we secure the people there sitting at the end of your network? Cost control, very important for the IT leaders. When you look at the digital transformation, look at the budget and how do we balance them, right? Because the cloud providers, they add new features in the name of digital transformation, and also sunset many things others. It all add overhead to them. The CIOs, how do we take care of it? So digital transformation, we as IT head, as a CIOs during the pandemic situation, they redefined the digital transformation. It is about ensuring the business continuity, regardless of the people working from an office or in a typical your home network, etc. So now we are all talking about post-pandemic situation is gone. So we all talk about now post-pandemic, right? It's called how do we work in a hybrid situation. So when we talk to the people, two-thirds of them doesn't want to come back to the office. It is going to stay there. And so they're not coming back. It's a distributed workforce. So now the challenge is, as you mentioned, digital transformation. How do we deliver the digital transformation to the distributed workforce when the office itself is a fluid concept? A bigger challenge for all the IT leaders, right? So what I'm foreseeing is that edge will accelerate, edge computing will accelerate here. Modern application is built around edge technologies, multi-cloud, right? Again, relook at your application modernization, very important priority for us. Containerization, Kubernetes, etc. What we are keen on is it's consistent developer experience, right? How do we ensure that developers are not impacted when they work from distributed workforce, right? Management across multiple cloud technology. We all talk about multi-cloud when we talk about digital transformation. How do we balance them in the multi-cloud? SLA and consistency of the cloud providers, very important points to be considered while we talk about digital transformation. And runtime application or runtime of for application, where they will be running. What about the infrastructure stack, etc. So these are the few points which comes to me when we talk about the digital transformation at this time. Yeah.
Thomas, you've raised very important points, but in the pandemic, business continuity, survivorship, all of these are very important. Now we're coming out of the pandemic. Now companies are thinking of growth, meeting the pent-up demand and things like that. So how does digital transformation here help you plan? Could you give us any examples where perhaps you are using data analytics, which has made a real dent to improve your efficiencies and save your costs and perhaps predict what's coming up next?
Yeah, so the important point, as I said, is about how do we shelter the people from hybrid work locations. Monitoring is a key part. When you look at the network, right, the proactive monitoring, if you can identify the malware before they impact our systems, it's very important. So now when we talk about monitoring, you have a mix of traditional monitoring system, you have a multi-cloud and different monitoring system together. How do we bring them into a single pane of glass so that you can have a single visibility to what is going around? That is where the predictive analysis is going to work. Means you are going to predict an error or an alert before it can happen. So predictive analysis along with artificial intelligence, machine learning, they would have gained a lot of knowledge by itself by working through the monitoring system. So by looking at the pattern, analyze the pattern, identify these are the prospective threat lying in there in this sector, right? Or if there are network, anything there lying there misconfigured, are all the network properly segmented? How do we ensure the monitoring of all your network through the different cloud services? That's a very important point we brought in there, right? So we are all going through the digital transformation journey. Multi-cloud is approach which we are looking at. So that to bring in the problem of how do we take care of, how do we balance the traditional monitoring and also the cloud monitoring, which we can come with the multi-cloud. The cloud service providers, usually they provide a dashboard, a seamless dashboard. That's not the case with the traditional monitoring which we had with our legacy infrastructure. It needs to be balanced. So that is where the predictive analysis is going to play a greater role.
Right, but you spoke of multi-cloud, you also spoke about your legacy systems. Obviously, you're not going to just suddenly give up on the data that your legacy systems collected. How do you integrate this into the multi-cloud? Are there challenges? Are there ways to overcome this? Is SaaS a solution?
Yeah, so I think there are multiple questions in your this single question. What I've heard is that how do you lift and shift your legacy applications into the cloud? How do we leverage the multi-cloud, etc.? So one thing which I can see is that it all depends upon the organization. There are three things that you need to be worried about when we look at lifting and shifting your legacy platform to the cloud. One is the cost, second is the security, and third is about your manpower readiness, right? The cost is legacy infra applications, which are quite monolithic in nature. It may not make sense to invest cost there and bring it to the cloud, right? It's better for them to let it be there where they are and run it from there. Second is the security, right? When we lift and shift your monolithic application to the cloud, are we ready for the security aspect of it? How can we ensure they will be secure there on the cloud? And more important, many companies are following the hybrid approach, right? So multi-cloud is also in a kind of hybrid, means the company process policies may insist that certain kind of workload need to stay with your on-prem. Regardless of your vision for digital transformation, you have to keep them on on-prem, right? It cannot be shifted. to the cloud. So that is something which I've talked broadly about security. Third is about manpower. Do we really have the skilled resources to work on the multi-cloud? That's a bigger challenge in front of the CIOs now. So before we deep dive into the multi-cloud, think of these three factors: cost, your security, and the manpower, right? So that's very important. So the developers are very important now. So CIO, what I feel is that IT heads and CEOs, they need to invest in the multi-skilling of the people. So you brought a very good point about how do we take care of the application which is going to the cloud, right? So the developers, the requirement of skilled resources are very important point to be considered. It means CIOs need to look into an expansive way of learning, and means it goes beyond the traditional certification, training and certification. Means here he need to define a strategy of multi-skilling. It is a convergence of disciplines that creates an opportunity for the digital transformation. Means we need multilinguals within ours. What does it mean? Multilinguals means you want to find a way to have a people from one discipline adequately trained in other, so they can bring together the beauty of those two together. So that is what we call multilingualism. This concept of multilingualism.
Can you give me an example?
Example is, say, for example, if you have a cloud architect, right, an enterprise architect. So enterprise architect, if he can be trained as a cloud architect, yes. So that's a blend of two skills coming together. So that is how we achieve the concept called multilingualism, and that is the basis for your leaps and bounds towards a multi-cloud strategy.
I wanted to understand if you're using AR, VR in your company.
Yes, the manufacturing and automobile sector in specific, they're investing much on the AR, VR. So especially when we're looking at the floor manager task, right? How do we automate the mundane activities of the floor manager, right? The simple tasks which they do, which they repeat in nature, right? The industry is focusing and investing more to automate whatever the activities happening in the floor level. So it's about, when you talk about artificial intelligence, machine learning, you're trying to skill certain machines to do certain kind of mundane activities. What does it mean? That you're training the machine to do a certain kind of jobs. Very good there. But now you need to upskill the people behind it, because you had been asking the machine to do one thing, right? You switch on your machine and that does it, right? The machine would have learned certain intelligence by itself. Now the people behind it, they need to upskills so they can meet the demand of the business as we move forward. So means upskilling of resources plays a greater role when we talk about AR, VR, and AI introduction to the companies, right? So we invested a lot there in the floor manager activities, automating the floor manager. At the same time, the multi-skilling and reskilling of resources to meet the future demand, that's an important point which we need to consider.
We are Crestron. We've defined and redefined the best in room automation, smart home systems, content distribution, and video conferencing technology. We never stop pushing further, creating solutions that exceed expectations, defy limitations, relentlessly committed to research and development. The result? Leading-edge products, built in factories of the future, equipped with quality assurance that replicates years of service in the service of peace of mind.
So what is the role of AI in connected cars?
So connected car is a blend of all the new technologies together. Means big data, AI, ML, IoT, all put together. So again, the security is again plays a larger role there. You cannot have your car hacked by some hackers, right? So a lot of huge investment is going around to connected cars for information and cyber security, securing the people, securing the edge. So that's very important in terms of connected car. So that is the future of the automotive industry, and all the buzz is happening around connected cars. So
Mr. Thomas, I still can't imagine what happens when my car gets hacked. I still open it, I still drive it on my own. What is hacking of cars?
Yeah, you would have heard is about an example. I think it's in the website as well. Tesla car, right? So once they launched it, it was hacked, and obviously that was for a definite purpose. It was not that the hacker wanted to do some harm there, but there is always a possibility, right, to hack the car. So means he can control it. So yeah, when we talk about the connected cars, as I said, everything is automated. Means the normal operating process of the car is also automated at the back. So when the car is getting hacked, if the operating data is not gone to the database correctly, then it's possible that your car's service may not happen properly. And again, it can go into the worst extent wherein it can lead to an accident, right? So hacking
It's
a
quite
car,
serious.
yeah.
It's quite serious. Mr. Thomas, I just want to get your views on some things that may be a little more futuristic. Auto companies are now exploring different business models, and this is happening with everyone in COVID. Everybody's had to think on their feet and innovate and go with things as they are. There is, we're living in this Zaz world. We believe that things are more of services than products. Do you believe that there is a monumental shift that is happening from car ownership to car as a service? How critical is technology going to be if this idea has to be a success?
So again, you're rightly commented there. Everything goes into a service model now, right? We heard about IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, etc. So when we come out the concept of car as a services, something which is going around, it's not a new concept. The discussion is already there out in the market, right? So it brings a lot of activities together. Means we have to have a re-architecting of our application portfolio, upgrade the technology platform there. Edge technology plays a greater role there. Technology that's going to sit at the end of your network. So a lot of activities are happening around connected cars, but when we come to car as a services, yeah, I think it's a future industry, or like the future of manufacturing, where all we are looking into. So we have not deep dived much into car as a services as a concept here, but again, very interesting to be looking into that.
Because, Mr. Thomas, not so much perhaps in India, but abroad we are seeing that people don't want to own cars. Car companies are going straight to companies and saying that, why don't you lease cars from us? And we have seen ride sharing come up in such a big way. Now, if your large customers are going to be ride sharing companies, even though ride sharing companies don't own these cars, they're not assets on their books. But we are seeing new concepts come up: rides on demand, ride sharing. They've been revolutionized and have got into the mainstream. So car companies will also perhaps think about how you can meet the the demand of this subset. So could the same idea also be extended towards auto companies giving solution to customers so that they can find a parking spot, or electric vehicle charging spot, or a tire service, or the scheduled services? You give your customers information they already need. Could this become a possibility soon?
Absolutely, it will be once upon a time. Because why I'm saying with the confidence is that when we look at the IT industry, right? So we have seen IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS, and then we have seen people going to one particular service model. They leveraged it. Then they've came back and said, why can't have a multi approach, right? Draw something from IaaS, PaaS, and SaaS that will bring a lot of cost value. Say they're going to balance across multiple cloud environments. Something like it's as simple as use a SaaS from different cloud providers. For example, Salesforce.com or from Workday.com, right? Or you choose IaaS platform from AWS or Google GCP, right? IBM Cloud, Microsoft Azure. Balance it from there. It gives some kind of control into the IT leaders, because IT leaders will have the flexibility to pick up the platform that makes more sense in terms of the use case, the cost, benefit, existing utilization, and so on. So from this experience, what I'm saying to the point which you are talking about, different car services, if that is coming out as a market, then the customer is going to be benefited. He can go ahead and pick certain services. I may not be availing all the services, but certain things which I feel it makes sense for me and my business, I can go ahead and pick those services and make it very competitive. I think that is something which will happen probably sometime later. But again, I heard the discussions are happening around those sectors also. But as I again relate to multi-cloud approach, which I always relate to, this multi-service approach in car industry, this will come going forward.
Mr. Thomas, we get a lot of inspiration from science fiction and Hollywood movies. There have been some Hollywood movies that were released 20 years ago, where we saw somebody step into a flying car and give it verbal instructions that I need to go here. Can you please take me there? And the car took them there. Now, just some crystal ball gazing. Do you think there could be a time when there'll be communication between vehicles because they're connected, right? So my vehicle communicates with transport infrastructure, say, or a data center that collects traffic information. Could this enable real-time information to be relayed between vehicles or transport infrastructure for us to be able to, make informed decisions and have a comfortable ride? How much data will have to be processed and what kind of technology will be required for this two-way communication?
Yeah, so it's a fiction though, but we cannot leave aside as a fiction. It might be a reality later, right? Because connected car segment is evolving. And there is a lot of discussion and investment happening around connected cars, right? So when the connected cars, what we talk is about the connect between the car and the car manufacturer or the user there. A lot of data goes back and forth. But the concept which we brought in here, where cars talk each other, right? So that's a different kind of concept altogether. This will bringing a lot of activities around big data. Because the connected cars are, the data comes out of is huge per seconds. So we should have the compute force to manage those data. That's very important. So because all this data is going to stay in the cloud, it cannot definitely be absorbed in on-prem servers. We will not be able to perform because when you have a cars talking each other, lot of data will be flowing around. Again, more important is going to be the security. How are you going to secure this data? Which again, cars are going to talk each other. The authentication, how do you authenticate this each other and protect the data before someone hack into them? When cars talk each other, they can also
they're more vulnerable also.
So how do we secure it? So a lot of activities will need to be going around big data, the security, edge security, and also edge computing. These are the few things which I can envisage in terms of the development happening to make it, though you are so fiction.
Futuristic, actually. Mr. Thomas, we're coming towards the close of this interview, and I'll take two quick questions from you. You've spoken a lot about edge computing. It enables many things. What are the challenges that exist today for edge computing to be adopted at a wider scale? Are there infrastructure bottlenecks?
Yeah, so edge computing and the cloud both are related to each other, right? The cloud, it has been there for some time. So those who are not migrated, they migrated to the cloud because cloud is always considered as a key enabler of digital transformation. So you have a data center. When we move to the cloud, it removed the requirement of constructing a data center, so you can do something else at that time. So then we containerized, then we virtualized and moved out, right? So now when we talk about edge computing, it's all about simplification of the business interface. It's about modernizing the application stack, which is going to sit at the edge of your network. It is about building a technology backplane that allows you to quickly address the needs as you move forward. That's the driving force behind edge computing, right? Now, all this, as I said before, we are already sitting in a danger of a threat-filled cybersecurity landscape. This edge computing is also adding in another layer of cybersecurity. A new holistic approach to end protection will be needed. That is the demand. End protection starts from with trusted devices which are protected above and below OS levels. So developers, they are very important. They are at the forefront. They need to be incentivized to build the security and compliance into the code. Security and compliance experts will need to work side by the developers to address the security issues before even they surface. Right?
So basically monitoring, testing, all of this also become very important.
And also periodic vulnerability assessment, risk scores, etc. So what I feel is that developers, IT infrastructure teams, security teams, all they need to work together, because the importance of the future in the edge computing, especially, is about awareness and education. What I feel is that security is primarily not a managerial, primarily it's a managerial and cultural problem, not a technical one, right? So that's an important factor. Yeah.
Mr. Thomas, what are the projects that you're working for this year that you're most excited about? And what are the technologies that you're most excited about to deploy at your company?
Yeah, something, the technology which I'm really excited, which we've already been successful, is there to enable remote workflow, right? The people, those who are working from the remote location, how can we onboard and offboard quickly from wider geographic locations? How can they securely connect to the corporate network without the need of any physical devices? That was a bigger challenge we have seen at least 2 years in the past, right? So that is a technology which I worked on in the past, in the couple of a month, which excited me. Right now, you can bring a resource to the network quickly within a fraction of hours, right? So they don't need to really depend upon any corporate, so-called corporate assets, IT assets, to be connected. So that is something is excited me, and something which we look forward is, again, how to eliminate the need of the typical VPN infrastructure. Means how can we securely connect to them from any device across the cloud?
Zero trust?
There's something about SASE which is happening. So SASE is going to replace the typical VPN infrastructure, securely connect anywhere. So that is something which is discussion is happening around the industry. So that is where I think I'm keen towards looking into as cloud proxy, SASE, etc.
All right. Mr. Thomas, thank you so much for taking the time out to speak with us on CIOTV. Such a pleasure having you with us to get all those ideas from you. Auto is such an exciting sector, and the interplay of technology makes it so much more, even more interesting. Thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, Anisha. Nice talking to you. It is really a pleasure connecting with you in this evening. So have a wonderful evening to you. Take care.
Thank you so much. Goodbye.
Bye.